So first of all, I want to just mention why I had to remove the old diff and replace it with another one. It got stuck. It got stuck and I couldn't use four-wheel drive. If I engage four-wheel drive, it was kind of like a handbrake, like something is broken inside. And then I realized when I saw the front cover that there is a little hole in here, right here. So there was a little fight inside. Something went wrong. Not sure if the oil was there at all, because I bought this truck as a farm truck. You see, the hole was caused by a big impact from something from inside. So I didn't check the oil inside. Maybe it was dry, maybe not. But yeah, but it failed, and I have nothing else to do, just changing front diffs on F150s here. In this short intro, I would like to mention a couple things about front differential removal on F150. There are basically 3 bolts holding it in the chassis. So the one on the passenger side, the second on the top of the chassis, and there is the third one right next to a drive shaft from transaxle. I recommend to remove this bolt first, because it's really difficult to get to, and then the bolt next to drive shaft as a second, and this one on the passenger side as the last one. To get to this bolt on top, you have to lower the steering rack a little bit. You don't have to disconnect anything from the steering rack, just lower it down. I'll show you later in this video how. Then what I would do differently this time, I will just disconnect the vent hose, which is connected right here, just from the front differential itself. In the video I disconnected from the chassis. The hose actually runs from here, zigzag system somewhere on the driver's side, and there are 2 actually clips, plastic clips, holding it in place. I'm gonna show you just one, but there is another one somewhere over here, which you have to remove to get that hose out of the truck. The question is if I will be able to put the hose correctly on this nipple here, because there is not too much access to this, so it's kind of like a blind spot where you can actually just feel the hose if it's placed correctly in here. So that's only one thing I would do probably differently. Otherwise, I believe everything is in this video covered, and as I go I will post which kind of tools you need and also what kind of torque you need to apply when you reassemble everything back. And this front diff is pretty heavy, so I used like a really simple jack. If you have 2, even better, so you can support it somewhere in the middle and on the side. And also my jack wasn't able to reach the bottom of the front diff, so I use kind of like a piece of lumber I have. It's 4x6, couple 4x6s. You might have some different stuff, but that's what I did. And for those who wants to see what's inside of my old front diff, I will make a short video about it, but I will put it at the end of this video, so you can use the time mark to get there or watch the whole video. I'm in the middle of the removal of the differential right now. So first of all, I use my ramps to make more room for me to work underneath the car, and also I choke my rear wheels on both sides of the truck, and I engage my parking brake as well. You don't have to touch the wheel, we can leave it like it is. We're gonna disconnect the CV axle from each side of the front differential. Let's go under the truck. So this is driver's side. I already disconnected this CV axle, and it has M12 bolts, and you can basically leave the CV axle hanging on the lower arm. Same thing on the passenger side, which is right here. Also, I already removed those 6 M12 triple square bolts. And then I remove 4 bolts from the front differential shaft, M12 triple square again. And in case you would install this front differential back in the same piece Then you should mark the position of the U-joint to the front differential so you can install it back in the same spot. In my case, I'm gonna use other differentials, so it really doesn't matter. Any markings are not necessary. And I'm on the driver's side again, just next to the drive shaft. I'm trying to focus on the middle of the screen where you can see the vent tube from the front diff. So we have to disconnect this vent tube. It's zip tied to the chassis. I will remove that 13mm bolt from the steering column and disconnect it so I can actually lower the steering rack a little bit. It shouldn't move anywhere, but I'm gonna mark it with my marker, so when I install it back in, it's gonna be in the same place. I loosened the connection up. Now it's free to move, and I can go underneath the car to remove a couple more bolts and lower the steering rack. You have two sets of bolts. One is 24mm and the other one is 18. So this is passenger side and also on the driver's side. Just one neat practice what I try to use all the time. It's to clean all those threads and spray penetrating oil and let it sit for a while. It helps a lot. And because these holes are oval, it's not a round hole around the bolt, I marked the position of the steering rack against the chassis with my black marker. Should have used white one, but it's black now. Also on this side here, on the passenger side. So once you remove the 18mm nut, the bolt is coming out the hole really easy. So when I removed this bolt from this bracket, I was able to loosen up the 24mm nut, and just the way that it actually flush with that bolt. So you don't have to remove it completely, it's just the flush with the bolt, and that's enough to lower the steering rack enough to get to that 15mm bolt. And the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this bracket underneath the truck, and there are two bolts on each side, 15mm. I'm gonna use my jack to lower the differential because it's pretty heavy. I also changed my IWEs on both sides. That's a different story, different video, but it was too cold so I couldn't actually record the video how I changed it. My battery didn't hold up. Maybe next time. So now we're gonna remove the top bolt of the front differential. On the driver's side, and you can see the arrow is pointing at that bolt, which is kind of pain in the butt because you have to lower the steering rack a little bit to remove it. So what I did, I broke the torque with my box wrench, and then this bolt is accessible from the front of the truck. I'll show you where. I pushed that bolt a little bit further down the hole, and you can see my 15mm socket. It's a 3/8 15mm socket, and it's going to the front of the truck right here. So basically just underneath the radiator. So my 3/8 ratchet and two 10-inch long 3/8 extensions, which can reach that 15mm bolt from the front of the truck. So there is your oil filter, your coolant hose, and it goes on the right side of the coolant hose and left side of the steering column. Basically this way you'll be able to torque it down to a proper torque once you put your new front differential back in place. Now we're gonna remove the second bolt in order from the front differential, which is right next to the drive shaft from the transaxle. Now we are on the driver's side of the truck, right underneath the exhaust. There is a CO2 sensor, and here is the drive shaft from transfer case to front differential, and on the left side of it
you can see the bolt is hidden right there. So that's the second bolt, and it's also 15 millimeter.
Now we're gonna remove the last bolt, which is on the passenger side.
It's a 50 millimeter bolt, and it's facing to the front of the truck. And there is a nut facing to the rear of the truck, but you better hold it with 13/16 or 21 millimeter wrench, because it's holding on that little like a bracket. So avoiding breaking it, hold it with 21 millimeter wrench or 13/16.
My newer front diff is ready to go. I drained the oil completely. I clean everything from dirt on the mating surface for the cover, clean the cover as well, and I applied a bead of silicone. I installed all bolts, just a hand tight, really slightly, so I can see that the silicone is squeezing out of the mating surfaces. Now I'm gonna wait an hour and then I torque it down to 24 foot-pounds with a 13 millimeter socket.
I used a couple of 4x6s, like chunks of wood, 4x6s, to support my jack and to support front differential, obviously. A little bit tricky is to get one bolt on top into position, so I'm gonna show you what I did. So from the bottom you can see the top bolt right above the steering rack. Hopefully you can see it. I can zoom it in. There is a 15 millimeter socket, and I don't know if you can see it, but I have a little, like a piece of plastic bag in that socket to hold the bolt on the way in. So when we go from the front differential, I know it's a little tight, but you have an idea, and to the front of the truck, this is my bumper, right? You can see there is my 3/8 ratchet on 3/8 extension, and I use two. One is 6-inch and one is 10-inch, so 16-inch extension right there. So the same thing as I showed you how I removed this bolt, so the same way I installed it, but to keep the bolt on that extension I used that little piece of plastic bag to make it hold there, and then I was able to push these extensions from the front of the truck to the hole as one piece, and it goes just right beneath that coolant hose. And here is the oil filter right here, right? So you can get to that bolt from here. Not a biggie. It's a little tight, but doable. Just a short note on the steering rack. I torqued down this big 24 millimeter bolt, or 15/16 first. I got my marks lined up on one side and on the other, as you can see, and then torque these bolts kind of like a cross bolts after that.
Last thing to do in the engine compartment is to put this 13 millimeter bolt back in, so tighten it down, and also you have to install this plastic clip on the vent hose from the front differential to the chassis.
So we got some snow here, so let's do some maintenance first, and then I'll fill up the differential with some fresh oil. I'm using Motorcraft gear oil 80W90 because the price was right, and I bought this cheap pump from Napa, but it doesn't work at all. Like it's pretty thick oil and it actually pushes back. I don't know why. There's something is wrong in it. The arrow is facing the right way. I have one end deep in the bottle and the second end really shallow here, and when I press on it, it just it's making some bubbles. Finally, see these bubbles there. It's not really pushing hard, so I decided to warm it up a bit. I'm gonna use my portable heater. I'm gonna pour this oil into a steel can, 1 liter of oil in there.
I'm gonna turn it up and heat it up to like a warm, lukewarm temperature at least, and then I'm gonna use that pump, so hopefully it's gonna work way better, because this oil is really thick anyway. It's like a honey. So after a few minutes I stir it up, and as you can see now the consistency is way better. So I'm gonna turn it off and double check the temperature. It's not hot, it's just warm. It's nice and warm. Okay, so now I'm gonna try to use this pump again, from this freaking cold oil to this warm oil. It's gonna need some time to get through. I'm gonna try to keep it like this. You can see it's gonna go. See, the honey is going in. It's funny now. The pump actually started working a little better. Still that kind of like a air coming into the system, but the oil is really thick, which was in that pump from the first liter of oil. And now hopefully I will get that hot oil there, or warm oil in there soon. Now it started working. Squeeze a little more. Still that air is bugging me. It's not really working well. It should work way better, but it was cheap. Now I'm getting the hot stuff in there. It's still sucking some air from somewhere, but I believe this should work. Now it's flowing. You can see now it's flowing. So I can pour this oil back into the bottle. I'll double check the temperature first, but it's, like I said, lukewarm. And yeah, you can fill up the first liter like this. This should work. Okay, so this pump kind of works. See the bubbling here? It's now it sucks in, and the flapper in here, the one-way valve, obviously is not working well. Because if I press on it, I'm pushing the air back into this hose. But at the end of the day, it's pumping. So I'm gonna use it this way. Preheat the oil, make it thinner, and pump it. Alright, so I let it all drain, so those hoses are empty, and we'll go under the truck. The pump was working pretty well with that oil. Heat up a little bit. It was pretty warm, it was not hot. And yeah, the other end is in the diff. Yeah, it's right there. I know it's probably like a half-inch hose or something. And my oil drain pan is ready as well. So one bottle is in there, and basically this is, they say 1 liter. It's a little bit more than a quart. Alright, so I have another bottle ready to go, getting oil warmed up and pump it in there. Yeah, but finally you can see the little drip, and you're not gonna need more than 2 liters. Brian from Ford Local said 2 liters, 2 quarts, so yeah, it should be right, and it is right. He's always right. I'm gonna pump a little bit more in here. As you see, pumping. And it's dripping. It's getting more and more. I'm already sucking the air, see? So it takes really 2 liters. 2 liters, I'll pump everything in there, everything I have. I want to make sure that that diff that gets what it needs. And then the fuel plug, I'm gonna put it back in place. Now it has a little nice and little drip in here with the wind taking it somewhere else. Yeah, it's -10 out there, so hopefully you can work in better temperatures, warmer, somewhere in Florida, Miami, Texas, not Alberta, in open space. Yeah, the front diff is full. Perfect. So I will remove the hose from the front diff. Gonna let it drip. Gonna put it back into this 1 liter bottle so I don't lose it, just in case. Not sure. But yeah, time to install this fuel plug after it drains out. It's 18 foot-pounds. And then, of course, I'm gonna install this cross member back in, and these bolts are 66 foot-pounds. And that's gonna be it probably. There's nothing left. Drains out like a honey. Alright. And it's time to fire up this beauty and give it a try, how it works. Especially when I change those IWEs, integrated wheel ends. Hopefully the 4x4 is gonna engage just fine.
So if you just about to change your front diff as well, good luck to your project. And also if you want to see what happened to my old front differential, keep watching.
So let's take a look inside. So first of all, I'm gonna show you again this hole from the inside. So it was caused by something squared, maybe a tooth. And then you can see a little bit of sawdust, like a steel sawdust on this part. And also when we come to the body of the front diff, there is a sawdust in here on the bottom. When I look inside, don't mind that grass. Let's take a look at those things inside a little more in detail. And I see there is some missing part, I believe, on the bottom. So let's take it apart and take a closer look what happened. So when I turned the front diff upside down, I found these two small pieces. It's definitely not a good sign. It's like a broken tooth, or even more than one. It's brutal. So I flip it upside down, and to remove this 27mm nut, I'm gonna spray it with penetrating oil first and let it sit. Okay, and let's try to break the torque. Got it. Wasn't that bad. I thought it's gonna be way worse. I'm gonna use my ratchet. And there is the C-clip. I hope you can see that, which actually holds the half shaft in place. And same thing on the other side. Not sure if I can actually get there with my camera. Right there. Okay, so I'm gonna remove those two. Remove those half shafts out of the case. Okay, I removed those 4 19mm bolts. So one C-clip is out of there. Let's pull this drive shaft out. For the half shaft. So yeah, one thing is done. And the second C-clip is out. So this drive shaft should go out like no sweat. And now, with everything removed, I should be able to pull this one. Oh yeah, I am able to pull this planetary gear out of the diff. And I see there is something happening in here. So the one tooth broke off from this planetary gear, and it's the second one is chewed up right next to it. And let's rotate this boy all the way. There's no other damage. This inside is not damaged at all. It looks nice and intact. And let's take a look in here. This is interesting. Like this piece is out of wear. I can't see as of now where it came from. And it's nice and solid piece of steel. It is kind of like a shape like it should have a teeth or something in here, but not sure. I have to remove the 27mm nut from the other side and I will get it out. And since this is just a piece for a demonstration, I will have no mercy with it. Tap it out. This came out as well. And let's take a look. Well, this is something. So, yeah. It's all chewed up. I'm gonna bring it closer to have more detail in it, but this one is done. Like, it's really bad. Some metallurgy process happened in here. This is really bad. To pry this thing in, I can just break it. Break it easy. Break it as it is. That's very nice. So now I think I know where this part came from. It's definitely out of here. And something was happening in this part of the gears. Whatever, so yeah, this is the result. Not sure what was the main cause. Lack of oil or, I don't know, bad driving habits. And if somebody might have an idea what might cause this issue, just let me know. Good luck to your project, and if you change the front diff, I hope you will find all this information in this video you will need. And if you find some easier way, just let me know as well. Alright, again, good luck to your project. Have a good one.